They add new things all the time, and the problem is they don't always tell me what it is. Because just down here, they've got get sponsored with Streamlabs, which is the latest thing here. I guess is it a Streamlabs thing? It might not be. What is this? The first on the leaderboard by showing support. Try setting a live chat or super chat. Oh. Oh, so they can get ranked by like how much they spend on for donations and things like that. Oh. That's fun. They could buy Daddy's love. Oh, that sounds weird. I don't want to refer to it as that. Fuck. Uncle's love? No, that's still bad. It's all bad. I regret everything I've just said now. Fuck. Hi everybody. Welcome to yet another Friday stream. We finished Everyman Hybrid. That's the stream.
Yeah, we did.
Right, we're going now. Bye. No, for real though. We finished that last week with the helpful hands of Ren, our guide. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm really glad it's done. No hate to the fans or the self-proclaimed ambassador of Everyman Hybrid, Ren.
Well, I claimed Ren was the ambassador.
I mean, I think it's a great title for it, really. And if anything, Ren is going to do just such justice for what they need, and all the kudos for that. I think it's incredible. But I'm quite glad that I don't have to go back into it. If I'm completely honest with you. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that today. Just airing our grievances. Today we're here to start a new project. A project that may or may not be finished, but that doesn't really matter because
there's a lot of it so far.
There's a lot of it so far. One of the creators himself, Jordan, wanted to share with us, and we needed a palate cleanser after all the Slenderman and non-Slenderman activities we've been up to. I'm sure we'll get back to Slenderman stuff afterwards, but I'm not worried about that right now. So, let's start by going to Jordan's website.
That's it. Yep.
This is dj32.neocities.
Yep.
.org.
It's djay32.neocities.org.
The link should also be in the description below if you ever want to check it out yourself.
It's my website for all the creations that I can bother to collect on there. There's
all his fiction, all his videos, and all his music. And
yeah.
Also Tumblr, email, and a layout builder.
Well, that's me crediting other people's stuff.
Yeah, don't click the bottom ones. Just click the important stuff.
And you can click the bottom ones if you want to build a website.
Yeah, but we're not here to do that. So, we're delving into the music side today.
Yes, we are. Sunsetters.neocities.org.
The Sunsetters Project. Jordan, what is this project?
Oh, God. I'm just going to read from the web page.
Oh, yeah, you can do that. That's fine.
I put those words there to help me, I guess. I want the microphone to pick me up. I want to lean forward.
Oh, I could angle it with you. You're good.
Okay. There are some artworks on the internet that are deliberate collections of MP3 files, which we call albums. On this website, I am arranging a subset of those, which I call Sunsetters albums. I call them Sunsetters albums because I invite you to pretend they are rock music by a fictional band called Sunsetters. In reality, these audio files are just fancy MIDI instruments performing sheet music written by myself, Jordan Dooling, and by my friend Lindsay Taylor. If you'll click on Who Are We?
Who are we? It's here.
Yeah. I was wondering if we can zoom in or not.
Yes, we can zoom in.
Oh, that's much better.
Oh, that is actually great, yeah. Yep.
It formatted with it. That was beautiful.
Oh, it's good.
We were high school friends in America back in the day, me and Lindsay, and together we loved rock and metal music. We would have liked to have grown up together and form a band or something, but I had to move away to England. That didn't stop us from staying best friends on the internet, though, and together we instead found MuseScore, learned how to use it, and kept sending each other files we were working on. So just to clarify here, MuseScore, it's free software. It's specifically it's notation software, so it's what like professional musicians, or, like composers use to, and arrangers use to, mostly like for orchestras and stuff. They make sheet music. Like you make sheet music on this free software, but we found that over the years we found out that it has this this playback function where it'll play like MIDI. It'll play in MIDI what you've written down. So we kind of realized that we could write something with this.
Mm-hmm.
But,
hi, Ellie. Oh, hi. It's giving her a #1 crown. Look at that.
Hi, Ellie.
Sorry, Ellie. They've hit us with new features, and we don't understand them fully. But I like the fact that you have a #1 crown. I think that's pretty appropriate so far.
Right, so MuseScore, we learned how to use it, kept sending each other files over the internet. Lindsay and I, as a music making collective, are Blind Man's Book. Like legally speaking, we are Blind Man's Book because Sunsetters is a vague name, and there are a few other bands that have that name. So legally speaking, we're Blind Man's Book, making albums that are conceptually Sunsetters albums. This way, we can create music that isn't just Sunsetters. But here on this website, I'm going to show you Sunsetters albums, as they are a specific project we are making. Following so far?
Kind of.
Why Sunsetters? As for why Sunsetters, well, that's another subject still. In my old horror stories in 2012, in an attempt to be able to still have characters talk about music without worrying about copyright, I guess to clarify there, because in my old stories we used to have it was a kind of a common thing among blogs to just post like song lyrics to heighten a moment or something like that. But like I wanted to eventually profit off of my stories, and I didn't want to get into legal trouble, so I came up with so I had started saying some characters were big fans of the Sunsetters. Like I made up a band basically. The name was based on Dream Theater's "The Ones Who Helped to Set the Sun," an evocative title. I had some album titles: Sunsetters, Summer Sucks, The Excavate, No Entry, along with album covers drawn by another friend at the time, and a lot of song titles, but nothing beyond that. It was just a cute idea back then. But once Lindsay and I were experimenting with the means to make music, we decided to take that name and make those albums a reality. And that's what we did. But we're here for the fiction. And the fiction is, these are Sunsetters albums. And they're supposed to be really, really good. Like good enough that characters in these stories will be fans of them. Like, holy shit, it's Sunsetters. I love those guys. But their music starts in the year 2000, and they release a new album every couple years or so. They're signed with B&B Records, like Blind Man's Book Records, but just being cute, whose practices sometimes raise questions, but for some reason, the Sunsetters are given total freedom to make the albums how they want. So fictionally, who are the Sunsetters? There are 5 members in the band. They are all American. There's Elsie Carr on vocals and keyboards. There's Deegan Allen. We'll find out why his name's Deegan in one of the fiction things later.
Oh, okay.
This is not a real name. Deegan's not an actual name.
You can call somebody Deegan.
Yeah. He'll be guitars like... It says left.
Poor Deegan. Making fun of his name already. He's your character. What the fuck? Oh, that's so rude. Poor Deegan.
I love Deegan. He's one of my favorite characters.
Dude doesn't even exist and you're making fun of him. God damn.
Like, if you listen on headphones, you'll often hear the guitars being not quite double, but there'll be a guitar on the left and guitar on the right. And so Deegan is the one on the left. We'll call him the lead guitarist. He's the lead guitarist. Remy Larson is the rhythm guitarist, who's primarily on the right. Paul Blackwood is on bass and some vocals. And Finn Jensby is on drums. And over time, this lineup changes. Right now, almost all the albums written have this lineup, though. And then I made this little thing, like Wikipedia often has this kind of thing, where you see the timeline of the band.
Oh, right. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And I'll get...
So basically, it looks like Elsie Carr's been in it the entire time.
Yep.
Deegan Allen has been in it also the entire time on two things, backing vocals and guitars.
Yep.
Remy's been in it most of the way, a bit of vocals, mostly guitar, then dropped out for a bit, was replaced with Ridley Coe for a bit.
Yep.
Then there was also a gap of nothing.
Yep.
But then back to Remy.
Yeah, because the vertical black lines are studio albums.
Right, so the album releases.
And the grey lines are EPs.
And then Paul Blackwood. So pretty much only Remy was the only one who's had like a bit of an issue, and then Ridley just filled in for a bit.
So far that's the story so far.
Okay, no, I've never seen a thing like this, and I actually really like that. I think that's a great visualization.
Yeah, like if you go into like the Wikipedia article for like Metallica, they'll have something like this, or like many bands they'll have a little thing like this.
I guess I've just never noticed because I do look up quite a number of bands I usually don't know. I've never seen this, so I like that. I like that a lot. I think it's really cool. Yeah.
There's actually a lot to say about this project. It's made me think a lot about music, about creation, about art as a whole, about products and presentation. I personally, Jordan Dooling, I have only a marginal desire to learn the songs on real instruments. And in fact, if we ever produce real instrument versions of these songs, I consider those to be cover versions. I think like Lindsay's a lot more interested in doing that, but they haven't figured that out yet. But
it'd be like how Deathclock is a fake band, but there is also a real band that plays the Deathclock songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On this website, I've arranged pages for each album and EP. I guess I don't actually have to read this part, but I'll read it anyway.
You do as you like. It's your thing.
You can navigate the album pages in a neat and chronological way via the albums link below or at the top. Or you can navigate with a lot more words via the first time here link. Once you're on an album's page, the music and the front cover will be presented to you immediately, so you can get straight to listening. However, if you scroll down past the music, you can read a lot of information about each album, as well as links to more ways to experience the music and links to even more information. And there's legal stuff and a link to my website.
Which we were just at, so.
Yeah. There's a couple things. One thing mainly.
Okay.
So we're going to be starting with the album No Entry, which is not album 1, it's album 4, which is there at 2005 on that little diagram.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And this is like the one album which doesn't have Remy Larson on rhythm guitar. Instead, it's Ridley Coe.
Yeah, I do like this artwork, though.
Yeah, no, I love the artwork. That's really cool. I love Summer Sucks.
Wow. That's like very Homestuck.
I guess it is, actually.
No Entry. Here we go. Oh, yeah, I remember seeing this picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was really cool.
Yeah, I feel... Actually, hang on. Go back. Let's click on the first time here link instead, because there's more words there that I may as well read. Because plus, this also kind of helps clarify some things.
Okay.
Because for most of the listeners, hypothetical listeners, and for you as well, this is your first time listening.
That's true.
The Sunsetters Project is supposed to emulate the feeling of discovery of a new band's discography. When I find a band I hadn't listened to before, I find there are two main phases to my experience. 1, the first listen. I gotta hear everything first, at least once. 2, I am a fan. Now that I've heard everything, I can jump to whatever song or album I'm in the mood for forever. And, look, I could come up with a proper linear fictional narrative taking you through the full story of the Sunsetters as they recorded each album chronologically.
You could.
That would provide a convenient beginner's guide to point you to, and it might even feel like internet fiction, which this is. But that's not the spirit of the thing. When you get into a new band, do you buy their biography and read it from the beginning, listening to each album as it becomes relevant? No, you listen to the music, and just kind of in whichever order fits you best at that point.
I mean, to be fair, the only argument I have is with Gorillaz, when I properly decided to do it the right way, I went straight from the start all the way through, so.
Yeah, that's fair.
No.
But that is the design principle of the Sunsetters Project. We invite you to play pretend, and stories will emerge as you dig in. So you just gotta dive into the music, but where do you start? Listening to each album chronologically probably makes the most sense, but it's also not required. You can feasibly start with any of their albums, and we'll be starting with one that isn't the first one. But we'll get to the first one later in the stream. First, I'll continue to read this just because I'm on a roll here, and it kind of helps me.
You're the driver.
First, note that this website hosts the music for convenient listening, but also links out to a few different ways of experiencing the music. There's a download for each album, which takes you to Google Drive. There's a Bandcamp for each album, which hosts the music, but also enables you to pay money for each album, consider it an optional donation, or download for free. And finally, there's a YouTube playlist for each album showing lyric videos that give the lyrics at the appropriate time in the song, something of a necessity if you actually want to pretend there are lyrics to these songs. So the recommendation is to experience because I'll explain. So,
because there are vocals, though.
Because it's MIDI, so it's MIDI vocals like
right. And so basically the lyrics of the lyric videos would show what the lyrics would actually be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's to further play pretend, basically.
Okay. I'm with you.
And also we did try early on to do actual vocals with it, but it's hard to sing and it's hard to make it sound good.
Oh, you take lessons.
We could.
There's YouTube tutorials to. I mean, I don't know how good those are going to be though. That's the only issue because I think the thing about teaching is you need to have the back and forth. And a YouTube tutorial is good for certain things like DIY and shit, but not for proper teaching. I think.
But I found in the long run, I found that it felt more cohesive to have everything be MIDI, and also I was able to make it sound better and better as I went. Basically,
okay, yeah.
It was something I could work with it, whatever. But so
Lil Duck, hi. Your number 2 crown. So
the recommendation is to experience the YouTube versions for your first listen, unless you really don't care about lyrics and just want music, in which case take your pick. Although, personally, I would recommend, if you just want the music, just go for the website. The website has the songs in beautiful quality and very convenient playlist whatever. Second, note that the Sunsetters albums were designed as albums, deliberate track lists to be listened to in full. You can jump around and listen to specific songs, and I've given some recommendations in the list below, but it is the context around the songs that gives them purpose, just as much as it is the individual composition. I highly recommend whatever album you choose, you commit to listening to the whole album, at least for your first listen. And then I don't have to read all this stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, we're starting with no entries, so
yep.
Is there anything important in here that you might want to say, or?
I guess...
Unless you feel like it kind of spoils stuff, in which case we avoid it.
It doesn't really spoil anything. I'll read it anyway. The fourth album, No Entry, is very listenable. you can absolutely start here. And in fact, I would recommend this if you're not going chronological. And that's part of why I'm saying for this stream, we should start with No Entry. Because it's like, this is the one, it's supposed to, in theory, like hook you. Because if we start with the first one, and I've explained this to you before, but I'll explain to the stream. If we start with the first one, there's a chance that, like, the concept, the idea of the first album is it's meant to be a debut album. If you listen to any band's first album, there's going to be some strange things about it. There's going to be some looseness. There's going to be some, they haven't quite figured out their exact sound. And even over the years, when I've gone back and like revamped the first album, I still wanted to keep that quality to it. So there's the first album might give you some wrong ideas about where this goes, whereas No Entry, as the fourth album, when they've established their sound, this will give you a better idea of what to expect, I think. Anyway, the music is tight and diverse, and the plot is a dark character study. Careful where you step, as there are some deep rabbit holes here. Trigger warning, there's like one scene with a shooting in it. Guns.
Well, is scene the right word?
Yes. Well, okay, it's a moment. It's like...
I feel like scene is more of a visual.
Well, yeah. But
whereas we don't have visual, it's just audio, isn't it?
Sure. I'll say, like...
Maybe scene still works, though.
The moment only happens at, like, one, like, a 3-minute period at towards the end of the album. So... And even then, it's avoided. Like, it's not dwelled on. It's not glamorized. But I just wanted to give the trigger warning because I haven't really shown this to. I've shown this to friends before. Like, all my friends who've heard this album absolutely adore this album. This is Ellie's favorite Sunsetters album, and I have other friends as well who love this album. But I just wanted to be safe to give trigger warning.
Nah, that's fair. Always good to have a little trigger warning in case there's any questionable stuff that could be an issue.
But the moods are strong, and the music is damn good, in my opinion. And any one of the songs is good to jump to. But okay, yeah. So,
all right, cool. Right. Shall we jump into it then?
Yeah.
Here we go.
You can just click on the album art; it'll take you to the website, or you can click on YouTube, I guess. But
I don't mind. Do whatever.
Yeah. Although, actually, God, no. Sorry, go back. I realized that there's one additional thing to this because for the purposes of the stream, we're
go back. Why did I go back?
I opened a new tab.
I did it.
Yeah. I made it do that.
You did? How dare you?
So can we open in a new tab, lyrics and plot?
Yes.
Because there's the prose story, which is in these green rectangles. That's not going to be included in the videos. And in fact, how about just for the sake of keeping this simple, because one option is to go song by song, stopping after each song to read the prose, and then listen to a song. But how about I'll read the whole prose story first, and then we can hear how the music handled it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you think is best.
So this is the story of No Entry. And just to put you like in the right headspace, like you've bought a CD or even a vinyl from the record store or whatever. You've gone home with it. You're excited for it. And you gamers in the audience, do you miss instruction manuals? Well, albums often had their own little instruction manuals. How do you do, you fellow kids? But because they had liner notes. Like oftentimes it would just include the lyrics in it. But for certain albums that told stories, sometimes the band would include an actual like written out story for it. My favorite example of this is Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. They've done that. And so you've taken this album home, No Entry, and you've opened it up. You want to read the story first before you listen to it. This is what we're doing. Okay, so sometime after the coming of the 21st century, years after the administrative near calamity of Y2K, and a little bit into the emergence in the music scene of a style that is called grime, an incident occurred to a Western man. This man was given a name when he was born in a Western country, but journalistic practices suggest his name be withheld, and those same practices are hereby extrapolated to also withhold the country. For the purposes of narrative nounership, this man is just the guy. The guy was a warm-blooded, barrel-chested, card-carrying paragon of Western ideals, a regular day-job crusader for God and the nuclear family in a post-nuclear age. He never had many friends besides those who, like him, bore silent witness to a society morphing under their feet. Prepped in school for a life of cold hard cash and unwinding by the TV, he became an early adopter of the World Wide Web in hopes of getting an early lead on the marketplace. And so it was he thrived for a little while as he came into his own. Liked for his wit, If respected only at a distance, he was on the path to getting used to this arrangement. But something happened. Song 2. Western society wasn't the only thing falling forward onto the brink of the unknown. Something changed in the guy, something he didn't talk about openly. Details are still vague on the particulars, but police consensus has confirmed this much. At some point, the guy found a forgotten journal. Again, he found a journal. He never let anyone see this journal. When it was discovered by his bed after the incident, forensics mistook it for a mistake. It wasn't his. It didn't have his fingerprints on it, or anyone's fingerprints for that matter. It bore a tattered leather cover, caked in forest mud. Its pages were older than the guy, older than most of the investigators, in fact. It was bagged away for later examination. But the guy... Back in those days, to all outward appearances, the guy was just going a little nutty. Keep going. Yeah. 3. He would start preaching, at a moment's notice, of the way things are going. For a while, there was some tenuous relevance to what was in front of him. A building under construction, a TV channel covering news what didn't before, and a shop employee with too many tattoos were triggers for some of his most notorious polemics. Guy, a friend would say, I hate it as much as the next guy, don't get me wrong, but sometimes a hat is just a hat. Or, let him bring his dog, he's not harming anyone, another would say. This may have stopped the guy from that approach, but in him was still an anxious river in the rainy season, and the levees of public decency, no matter how strong the foundation, can't stop the flood. So he would boil over now without a catalyst at all. Such is the course of human change. Fucking cough. I think 4.
Yeah.
Now, the guy wasn't exactly an outcast, nor was he expected to become one. He'd had friends before, sure as there's a reader there reading these words. At his job, sitting at a desk doing paperwork for contracts, he found some good people who brought light out of his eyes. They had the valuable and uncommon ability to parse his spontaneous rants, cut through the underlying anxieties, and address his needs. It wasn't always the easiest job, but they were rewarded with the proud bloom of the guy fulfilled. Those are the memories those friends still think of him by, and those memories were worth it, as his skills in persuasion and enthusiasm when honed to a warmer cause were a divine sight. Unfortunately, that isn't this story, and for many different reasons, the guy lost that friend group. Some of them got promoted and relocated, some of them were downsized or left for their own paths, and the remaining friend couldn't stand being the guy's ballast all alone and simply cut all ties. How this must have affected the guy, one can only speculate. He clearly tried to get on by himself for a while, but it wasn't long before he met a new circle at his first Sunsetters concert. They were smoking something illegal in the back rows. He bought them some beers, and they got to talking. He'd never heard this band before, and only come to this concert because it was touring in his town, so this new circle gave him recommendations and a lot of drugs. Perhaps if circumstances had been different, this could have been a way out for the guy. 5. It's time to take a step back and gather more context. How did the guy find the journal? This is a crucial riddle for the investigation into what happened. His sojourns into the forest predate his downward plunge, so evidently they were an activity he simply liked to do. About once a year, the guy was known to take a trail into a dense and winding forest. There were many such near him. He would bring camping equipment and spend several days out there, as he was competent at survival and relished the silence. He wanted to bring friends out there, but that never panned out. He didn't seem to mind, though. The forest was his ritual. To be lost amidst the trees, to have only the birds and the bees for company. Anyway, one year came the strangeness. The guy went into the woods, and then came back after only 2 days. It is generally accepted that this is when he found the journal. What was it doing in those woods? Who left it there? Was it the journal that changed him, or was it the forest? One of the only pieces of writing penned by the guy, found in his house during the investigation, suggests he met someone out there, someone who gave him the journal. Following up on this lead is nigh fruitless. There are some reports from time to time of people going missing in those woods, or feeling watched, but what can the police actually do about that? It makes sense that official consensus will gloss over this part of the story. The details cannot save us. 6. Who was the guy in his childhood? If he had a family, they took him to live in a lighthouse when he was little. If he didn't, maybe he was left there. He slept at the top, maintaining the light for the passing ships. If he had a father, that father sailed away, never to return. If he didn't, he likely imagined the father he never knew would come by ship. If he had a mother, she was either with the father, or as another cruelly forgotten detail for the speculators to take for themselves. Regardless, it is known that someone lived in a lighthouse many years ago. 7. Isolation is at the heart of this, of course. Society gives us a duty to weather the isolation in order to hold each other together. Many do not accept this duty and fight the fight of change, but in the end, all will settle into an equilibrium that still maintains the same principle. Weather the isolation, boy. Such is the course of human sadness. 8. So the guy became an adult. The guy found a journal. The guy lost his friends and made new ones. And the guy inched closer to a terrible incident. What was his mental state like then? It wasn't pretty. He had finished reading through the journal by this point, and he would spend his drugged-up nights processing its contents and fitting them into his view of the world. The journals, according to the guy, were the age-worn logs of a soldier who fought a war to establish capitalism, only to be betrayed by his state for all his hard work. Gunned down in the street by a faceless grunt, as it were. In any case, the keeper of the journals had died, and now the guy's anxieties were fed bloody raw meat. He still wanted to believe in the world, but how could he, when he now questioned the police? If he could no longer trust the police, wouldn't the rest of his beliefs inevitably close in on themselves? There is an it that society is changing towards, a bad it, and the police are in on it. So too must be everyone else. Yeah, you know how it goes. The fox in the hen house. 9. Now, if this story had an omniscient narrator, if God could come and speak to us, he might tell us some worrying things here, as there are very many unknowns to this case, and a case like this is unlikely to have an innocent resolution. As it is, the speculators have free rein to provide many worrying theories rather than just the one. Was the keeper of the journal kidnapped? Assassinated by foreign spies as revenge for his part in an ideological war? If it was actually the local police, could it have been a personal grievance, as simple as that? Or a mistake? Was it even the police? Couldn't it have been anyone? That's supposed to be a question mark there, I guess I forgot that. Was the keeper of the journal even telling the truth? Couldn't he have been telling a story? Was the keeper of the journal a cult leader? Did he leave the journal in the woods for it to be found? None of this matters now. 10. Meanwhile, what about the Sunsetters? Why not speculate about them too? The song that they were most famous for at the time of the guy's introduction to them was The Man Who Wasn't There, and it is all but certain he saw them perform it. That song has little explanation to it, coming in towards the end of a busy album, suddenly talking about a monster in a suit and tie. The lyrics purport that the singer has lost her mind after an encounter with this monster, that it follows her wherever she goes, yet cannot be seen, that it breeds her anxiety, and she invites the listener to sing along with her to the rather difficult vocal part, whereupon the curse would spread to him too. What if, right? What if? 11. In the end, the story must go on. The guy showed no sign of correcting his course, of stepping back from the abyss of regression. His beliefs didn't necessarily stay the same, though. It has been argued that prolonged obsession with the journals had put the details of his rants in flux, if the angry core rolled on constant. Other investigators cast doubt on whether human psychology is truly so malleable as to be molded by some random thing a person read. What, do you think television warps kids' brains too? Get out of the 90s, they say. I guess you can see both sides, can't you? In any case, one day the guy woke up and knew he had a duty. Final one, 12. The most authoritative account, the report of the incident made later that evening, has it that it was this way. The guy woke up, stood in front of the mirror for a time, put on his gloves, then opened the journal and gave it one last read before closing it, leaving it in the position that forensics found it. He grabbed his gun, a Glock 37, and left his house, driving towards a nearby shopping mall. Aside from the gloves, he was also wearing a pair of wraparound sunglasses, a camo hunter's vest over a pale blue dress shirt, and a pair of tight-fitting jeans. Witnesses described his behavior on arrival as flaky, wandering, undecided. After approximately 3 minutes, he fired 5 shots into the crowd, hitting several. Police were called by mall security as the guy made his way into a clothing store and took cover behind an abandoned counter. Police response time was 7 minutes, as they were held up by roadworks. During that time, the guy fired a few more times at whoever was unfortunate enough to pass by, though he hit no one else. Upon seeing the police, the guy shouted at them, calling them King Mob. He made no attempts to submit peacefully and showed no sign of reconciliation. He fired once at the police, hitting an officer through the heart, and then made for the exit. Officers chased him for 30 yards and gunned him down on the sidewalk in front of the mall. What else can be said? It's a sad state of affairs. We may never know the truth about the journal he found, but we know his truth. The guy was the iconic Western man, breaking down in aggression about an anxiety he couldn't put a face to. This is not a cautionary tale. This is reality. Or is it fiction? Either way, it's all dust windward.
Good.
So, first of all, do you have an opinion on that story? Was it okay?
I mean, I think it's fine, but without obviously being able to listen to the music, I think it tells a lot.
Yeah.
And so now I want to see if the music obviously makes me feel in the same kind of way.
Okay. Well, now we go to YouTube.
Okay.
This is wrong.
YouTube.
And to clarify, I wrote the prose there.
I mean, who else would write it?
Well, maybe Lindsay, but just in theory. But I just wanted to clarify.
That's okay.
Right. No entry. The music.
piece for a
Yeah.
game.
Look for an album. It is an intro piece.
That makes me think I'm putting up like a SNES game or a Game Boy Advance game.
Not yet. This is just wordless awe.
tell them.
Well, hi there, soft almonds.
Soft almonds.
This is my project. Well, I did this with a friend of mine. It's just it's music. Like it's MIDI music made to. Well, we're pretending it's a real rock band, but that's the fun of it. And this in particular is telling a story of a very isolated man who may or may not have something to do with the Slender Man. Like maybe the Slender Man gave him a journal, maybe not. I don't know. And this man did some bad things. It's in tribute to Marble Hornets. But anyway, the point is like it's music. That's what this is. Music that I co-wrote.
To put it another way, this is album number 4 off of the Sunsetters project.
Yes.
And we just listened to song number 4, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think so.
And we're moving on to Being Watched.
Yes. This is the one where he's in the forest. song is particularly repetitive because this one's kind of a doom metal song. Pause after this song and discuss it a little bit. pause here and discuss a little bit.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and kind of dive in a little bit and discuss and dissect and
So I do.
some.
I didn't realize when Soft Almond said it. Like, it does look a bit strange that we are just listening to music. Although, thinking about it, like that's what a reaction channel does. Like we're just watching videos. It's just we're not the exciting part until we start talking.
No, of course. But another thing, like I mean, even with the title and the thumbnail, it says listen and discuss.
Yeah, and
also,
also,
yes, but we're not doing a lot of discussing. But it's because we did like over 30 minutes of text dialogue, and then we had to jump into the music. The problem is it's hard to figure out the best level of pacing. Because we did think about one song and then discuss, one song then discuss. But the problem is, especially some of them aren't more than like 2 minutes long. In which case, it's very quick, and there might not be a lot to really talk about in that in between. So it's like it's good to do like a chunk at a time, and then kind of like how we did with Everman Hybrid and many other things. We do a chunk. Then we do some discussions. It feels like a decent pace.
And this is the halfway point for the album, so it's a good point to stop.
Yeah.
And it's also like worth just clarifying that part of the reason why you don't normally see reaction channels just quietly listen to music is because it's often copyrighted, and so they've got to either pause the music or talk over it in order to avoid the copyright stuff. Whereas this is not copyrighted. This is I made this stuff. This is we own this, so I give permission to do that.
No, absolutely. Do these songs have meaning? Now that's a fantastic question, Soft Almonds, which tells me you have not been here more than 5 minutes.
Well, okay, a lot of people like we did start a couple minutes early, and people didn't start coming in until.
But even so, we delved through pretty much how I mean, granted, not every single song in the universe has meaning, but these are telling a story in a way, and that they're all connected to a grander project, which is a level of storytelling, but at the same time. The meaning can also be different to other people. Yeah. It really depends on how you want to interpret it, even though there is a meaning. Yeah, but it's not like you should come away being like, oh man, I completely understood this. It's more like you kind of have to understand what's going on with the story and the feeling and the lyrics, and there's a lot to digest.
With No Entry, there is a definite meaning. There's part of the meaning is ambiguity. There is supposed to be ambiguity here, but it's in a very controlled degree. Like there is a specific story being told here. So, like for instance, "Being Watched," the song "Being Watched," that was a story that was about the guy. Like his name, we call him the guy. We don't know his name, but there's reasons for that. But the guy goes off to the woods. He goes to the woods like every year as just a little personal thing to get away from the world. He likes surviving the woods. He's usually there for like a week or 2 weeks. On this occasion, he comes back early. He comes back after 2 days because someone out there gave him a journal, a strange journal, and this was a sort of a pivotal moment for the guy in the narrative because although we don't know, we will find out what's in the journal later, but we don't know if he actually was given this journal. Maybe he found it. Although the song, the lyrics implied someone said, "Do you want to see?" But it just says a voice speaks to me. So all we know for sure is that there's a voice. And that ambiguity is part of the point. Because
that's not super ambiguous. Somebody spoke to him. Or something.
Yeah. It's like what this is, what No Entry is a tribute to Marble Hornets and to the Slender Man overall. And so that is a driving force behind a lot of this. That's why I've put ambiguity into specific parts. So, like, the implication is, and you kind of have to already be a Slenderman person to pick up on this, but the implication is he sees the Slenderman. He finds the Slenderman in the woods, and the Slenderman gives him a journal. Presumably the journal of, like, a previous victim of the Slenderman.
Right.
But I wanted it to be as ambiguous as possible beyond that. Like, and even the way that the narrative is told is... It's being very cagey about it. It won't let you really gain your footing on so many aspects of this.
It definitely doesn't define everything. Like you said, I think a lot of it is left up to interpretation. It does give you enough information to base something off of. So you're not just what the fuck do you mean he got a journal? What? You're not left completely fucking baffled.
Yeah, and what also helps is like. I made sure, like, from the start of the story, I tried to also do this in the lyrics, but definitely through the prose story. From the very start, you know that something bad is going to happen at the end of the story. You don't know what. You know that the guy does something bad. And so you're supposed to have a lot of dread about it. And you know that like something has happened to this guy, that he's gone a bit crazy, and to the point that he does something. And him finding the journal is the thing that pushes him into that. So like it's meant to be like a very emotional narrative. It's more about the emotions. You're supposed to, you get it. You get the emotions to it, even if you don't get the details to it. But, words. And that's also part of why the protagonist is just called the guy. Although also the prose story also says like it's journalistic practice, and that's true. In the kind of thing that the guy will do at the end of the story, real journalism doesn't tell us the name of those people, whereas it shouldn't. So
why shouldn't it?
Well, because you don't want to give those kinds of people fame.
But if they're dead, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you can get copycats. Like you get people who are like, oh, this. There is a reason to it. I don't know how to explain it properly.
Yeah, but you can still get copycats that aren't aware they're copycats.
Like it's. Okay, I'll just spell it out. Like shooters, like with shooters. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? To back me up with this with Nathan.
I can understand what you're saying, but media does everything it can to put people on blast.
It does, but like
it'll only hide certain information of people. Usually, whenever it pertains to like really like heinous stuff, usually about like human trafficking and shit like that.
And it's not. Censoring names is a common thing in journalism, but like
not in American journalism though.
Well, it is. Well, they're not consistent with it anymore. But there was a time when they were trying to be consistent with it, specifically with school shooters, because the reasoning was you'd have a school shooter who makes a blog with a manifesto on it, and he's like, "Oh, I've got to do this for this, that, and the other." If we tell everybody the name of this person, we can all look him up, find his blog, find his reasoning, and be like, "Hey, he makes some good points." And like they want to kind of minimize that. They don't want to. And they want to focus on the victims rather than the
well, they tend to wipe a person's presence online once they find out the heinous things they did.
Yeah,
they started not all the time.
They have started doing that. But also, the story is set in the mid 2000s, so this would have been that period of time anyway.
Right.
And also, it's just cool. I think it's cool to just call him the guy. So
that's true, Ellie. They certainly censor it a lot in Japan, and in various other Asian countries as well. But I mean, they'll even go so far to like proper like block faces and everything like that. Even just interviewing people, not showing the name at all, just for like a regular chat. But when it comes to crimes because it's quite obvious this is most likely in America or a version of America. But yet again, it's not confirmed because it's meant to be a hidden thing. Now, if this is meant to be like an alternate history America where maybe it's a little bit more totalitarian, I do completely think they would censor especially specific aligned people 100%. I definitely think they would do that.
To be exact, like it's supposed to be a pretty realistic America, but of the mid 2000s. But like sometimes journalists do avoid telling the name of this.
But then
in this case,
it depends. It depends either on the journalists themselves or who they work for when it comes to that. But I mean, like independent journalists, for example, they love to do anything to find whatever information they can, but depending on who they have to go through, especially their bosses, they might not allow that story, or they might just completely wipe it. So it really does depend. I mean, you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong.
But like in any case, in this case, they did. Like this,
that's fine. I think I think that's fine.
Although also like even within the fiction, this is still fiction. Like this is a fictional album made by a fictional band. Even in Sunsetter's universe, this is a fictional story.
Oh, of course, yeah. And I think if anything, the fact that it's all super ambiguous, even though you could probably figure most of it out, except for obviously his name and maybe motives and things.
But also, you don't need to know his name.
No, but exactly because it's just insert name here character. But that works. I think that works for a fictional story every single time.
I suppose, while we're discussing, I may as well discuss a little bit about The Boy in the Lighthouse and also the following song, Electric Distance. Because even in the prose story, they suddenly jumped back to like someone lived in a lighthouse, and it was even more vague than ever about that.
Well, yeah, this is about like it tries to paint you a little bit of his youth, doesn't it?
A little bit, but the thing is, like, I was a little bit coy with this, but this is maybe one aspect where I could have handled it a different way. But what I had in mind was like a David Lynch thing, where suddenly halfway through the movie we cut to a completely different character who's doing. They might not even be doing much, but it's a very symbolic thing. They'll do some action that's like the symbol of the entire story. And so we're cutting to, it might be the guy, you can interpret it as the guy, but all we know is it's a boy who lives in a lighthouse. And
is this not in the past though?
I think it's in the past. I didn't write it down as any of that, but
would you interpret it that way?
Yes,
because that's how I would interpret it. I would believe this is meant to be like his youth. I don't fully understand how it all connects, but I do understand why you would mention the past sequencing.
Like, I can also spell this out. Like, to talk about meanings here. I'm not actually that coy about what my stories mean. I'm coy about other things. But what No Entry is about isolation and the effects that it has on the human brain and of society. And so, I don't like the guy as a person, but I sympathize with him as a character. I think like it's what he does that makes him a bad person. It's not the isolation. I kind of feel bad for him for being so isolated. But and so we're examining that through a different symbol, a symbol of a boy who's all alone in a lighthouse. It's the heart of the story.
But why is the boy alone in a lighthouse?
I don't know.
You wouldn't typically have kids on their own in a lighthouse.
No, you wouldn't. Like it's a purely symbolic, like poetic thing, poetry kind of thing. It's just like a David Lynch thing. There is like Being Watched. The way that the Being Watched goes, it's a slow song, very synth heavy. That's also a big David Lynch thing. There's a mixture of some David Lynch influences on this album, which is also in part because it's a Marble Hornets tribute, and Marble Hornets also had David Lynch influences.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
see that.
So there's a lot going into this. So it's a lot of poetry brain to it, but you can interpret things however you want. If you want to see this as the guy as a child, then sure. Like nothing contradicts that.
Well, I mean, otherwise it is just really, really fucking random.
Yeah, it is a strange thing in the middle of the story. I wanted it to be a strange thing in the middle of the story.
Well, I mean, Bare Bones has definitely done that.
Yeah,
which I think is good. I think it's nice to have a little weird break,
Yeah.
because otherwise some people might see things as monotonous. I don't find this to be entirely monotonous. I do find a lot of it to be odd.
Fair.
A lot of the music is really good, though.
That's good.
I will have to completely concede the music is quite good. It's quite well thought out.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's really well composed.
The music was the priority one. With each successive album, I got better at focusing at blending the concepts with the music. But this is a weird album to make because I don't know. We ended up having to go pretty loose with the story, but I don't know. I did my best. I just tried something with it.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's just. I suppose it's different if you could like read the prose along with the song. Maybe then it kind of blends you into it a little bit better.
Yeah, we could have done that. I didn't know the best way to do it.
That's okay. I think if anything, it's a learning experience for us to also kind of figure out how best to do it. I think that probably works quite well. Or I suppose in another way you might have it like in the description as well. I think that just allows people a chance to read as well, which is good.
Considering, like, I'm pretty sure everyone here joined after the prose story. We could read the prose story for the songs from here on out.
We could. Because then I think it'll just kind of help connect a little bit more and maybe identify a little bit more what's going on. It's not going to obviously say everything.
Yeah, like
it'll maybe give you an idea of what the music's trying to portray.
Yeah, right? Like it's easier for me because I've listened to this stuff a million times and I have it all memorized. But
of course.
I do kind of, that's fair.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
If we've still got the tab open.
I might. Let's see. I can actually find out without going away on that screen, so people don't have to see.
We should be able to do like Control 1 and Control 2 to switch as tabs.
Yeah, I can, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so we're on electric distant. Yeah.
Okay. So what we're gonna do? Let's go back here so they can see that. There's no lyrics in this one, so we might just leave it on this for the bit, just so you can kind of see the words.
That's fine.
As it goes.
That's fine.
Yeah. I don't even think we have to like read the words out loud. It's just kind of like listen to the music,
see
what it says.
Sure.
I think that'll be pretty good. Okay, so this is Electric Distant, and this is prose for it.
Mm-hmm.
that certainly helped me kind of piece together a little bit more of the
Yeah.
vibe of the song.
And also, like, I wanted there to be variety in this album. But I didn't. Otherwise, it was all going to be all about this this radicalized nut job. And I didn't want to stay in that headspace for too long.
I totally understand. I went away from the prose because it wasn't very long.
Yeah.
I'm hoping everybody read it. Maybe next time when the song starts, we'll actually read it out as it goes, and then it'll maybe kind of like blend a little bit into that really quick. We'll play around with stuff. We'll kind of figure out what works the best. Yeah, this one should give you the feelings of isolation.
Yeah, and also it's like a broad, like just not a narrative, but like a broad examination of themes. Like a narrator's telling you philosophy here, I guess.
You know, like a wise old man is telling you all about the legendary weapon that you're going to use to kill the bad guy.
Sure.
And the crazy backstory of the world, and you're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I wasn't ready for like exposition out the ass. 5,000 years ago. What the fuck? 5,000 years ago? Think about staring into the abyss, basically. Staring into the abyss is a nice way to describe it.
Yeah.
Abyss plays bass.
With the music here, I was heavily inspired by Phil Collins' Genesis.
I was thinking of a calm doom level, but yeah. But that's just the basic MIDI aspect. So Thomas also likes the retro look of the website. I appreciate it. It's a good look. Good look.
very proud of how that song builds into that nice little climax.
Oh.
And then we return to the main narrative. If you want to pause it, it's going to go right into the vocals. So, yeah. We can pause it and just read the text, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, right.
So this is for the Colors of Grace. He's going to read you the prose now.
So the guy became an adult, the guy found a journal, the guy lost his friends and made new ones, and the guy inched closer to a terrible incident. What was his mental state like then? It wasn't pretty. He had finished reading through the journal by this point, and he would spend his drugged-up nights processing its contents and fitting them into his view of the world. The journals, according to the guy, were the age-worn logs of a soldier who fought a war to establish capitalism, only to be betrayed by his state for all his hard work. Gunned down in the street by a faceless grunt, as it were. In any case, the keeper of the journals had died, and now the guy's anxieties were fed bloody raw meat. He still wanted to believe in the world, but how could he, when he now questioned the police? If he could no longer trust the police, wouldn't the rest of his beliefs inevitably close in on themselves? There's an it that society is changing towards, a bad it, and the police are in on it. So too must be everyone else. Yeah, you know how it goes. The fox in the hen house. So basically, it's radicalization. Is the journal, whatever, we still don't know what the journals actually say yet, but we will find out. But he's taken them to confirm his own biases, and he's doubled down and become even more radicalized. And this song, which just compare it to Metallica. That's what this song is going to be like.
Colors of Grace.
Yeah. have like one pretty traditional metal song in there.
Yeah, no, I like that vibe. So this
Right.
next one is Follow Me Onto the Brink.
We'll do these next two together because they're kind of a unit.
Okay.
So, right. So now, if the story had an omniscient narrator, if God could come and speak to us, he might tell us some worrying things here, as there are very many unknowns to this case, and a case like this is unlikely to have an innocent resolution. As it is, the speculators have free rein to provide many worrying theories rather than just the one. Was the keeper of the journal kidnapped? Assassinated by foreign spies as revenge for his part in an ideological war? If it was actually the local police, could it have been a personal grievance, as simple as that, or a mistake? Was it even the police? Couldn't it have been anyone? Question mark. Was the keeper of the journal even telling the truth? Couldn't he have been telling a story? Was the keeper of the journal a cult leader? Did he leave the journal in the woods for it to be found? None of this matters now. So that's reinforcing the ambiguity theme. And the man who wasn't there. Meanwhile, what about the Sunsetters? I guess because you guys missed out on this, but an earlier song, Contract Desk Jockey, had the guy go to a Sunsetters concert.
Yeah.
They're an incidental part of this. They're a cute thing, a cute part of the narrative, because some bands do put themselves in the stories they tell, but as a cute little thing. But so the Sunsetters aren't actually important, but just roll with this. Meanwhile, what about the Sunsetters? Why not speculate about them too? The song that they were most famous for at the time of the guy's introduction to them was The Man Who Wasn't There, and it is all but certain he saw them perform it. That song has little explanation to it, coming in towards the end of a busy album, suddenly talking about a monster in a suit and tie. The lyrics purport that the singer has lost her mind after an encounter with this monster, that it follows her wherever she goes, yet cannot be seen, that it breeds her anxiety, and she invites the listener to sing along with her to the rather difficult vocal part, whereupon the curse would spread to him too. What if, right? What if? So what's being thrown down there for you to pick up on is it's saying, like, what if the Sunsetters spread the Slender Man to the guy? Like, what if the guy sang along to the song and the Slender Man latched onto him through that? I don't think that's how it happened, but I threw that in there because I always wanted to reinforce the Slender Man thing. I wanted it to be a bit clearer than it was, but still not in your face clear.
Wait, but didn't he find the journal before the concert?
No, Contact Desk Jockey was before Being Watched. Oh, maybe it took place reversed. I don't know.
Because I thought Being Watched was quite earlier, whereas Contract Desk Jockey I think was like the 4th or 5th song.
Contract Desk Jockey is song 4. Being Watched is song 5.
So it's like right after. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then.
Yeah, but it's still like still ambiguous. Because the thing is, like, the Slender Man is on the front cover of the album, so he's already front and center. But I didn't want the narrative to completely focus on him, and plus, it's entirely possible to experience this entire story without any Slender Man at all. Like, it's just a guy driving himself crazy.
Well, it's just like a fun bonus story, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's partly because it's a tribute to Marble Hornets, which I thought was you can read. You can interpret Marble Hornets where the operator isn't actually real. Alex is just going crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's
because Alex is the actual threat when the story ends once Alex is taken care of.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I always like that about the Marble Hornets, the fact that it's, Slender Man is there, but he isn't like you said, he isn't the ultimate threat, truly.
He may just be like a symbolic thing, like the boy in the lighthouse. Yeah. Like, I'm doing this album is a tribute to Marble Hornets. I want to reinforce that. Like, it's all the things I love about Marble Hornets I tried to do with this album.
So this is Follow Me Into the Brink,
yep.
Followed by
The Man Who Wasn't There.
The Man Who Wasn't There. This is the one that should make you question the journal. Make you think about that.
Well, I guess. Really, it's an interlude, really. To prepare you for The Man Who Wasn't There. I just had to put something for the pros.
Right. it is almost kind of like,
It's foreboding.
yeah. I was gonna say ominous, but yeah, foreboding is a good word.
And this is usually most people's favorite songs on the album.
Got some good lyrics for that one.
Thank you.
Not ready.
Oh, we're nearly done with the album. Got 2 songs left.
Death of the Author.
Got a short one and a long one. So, right, Death of the Author. In the end, the story must go on. The guy showed no sign of correcting his course, of stepping back from the abyss of aggression. His beliefs didn't necessarily stay the same, though. It has been argued that prolonged obsession with the journals had put the details of his rants in flux, if the angry core rolled on constant. Other investigators cast doubt on whether human psychology is truly so malleable as to be molded by some random thing a person read. What, do you think television warps kids' brains too? Get out of the 90s, they say. I guess you can see both sides, can't you? In any case, one day the guy woke up and knew he had a duty. So, like, the point is, like, the guy is angry, but the details of what he's angry about are in flux. He's not consistent anymore, he's just angry.
Right. Death of the Author.
The reprise of Prophetic to the Blind. ending to that song. I wanted to have that punch to it. Right, final song. This is the big one of the album. Like every album has at least one big one on it, but this one's only got one. But so this is the end of the story. Hope you guys are ready. And right, the most authoritative account, the report of the incident made later that evening, has it that it was this way. The guy woke up, stood in front of the mirror for a time, put on his gloves, then opened the journal and gave it one last read before closing it, leaving it in the position that forensics found it. He grabbed his gun, a Glock 37, and left his house, driving towards a nearby shopping mall. Aside from the gloves, he was also wearing a pair of wraparound sunglasses, a camo hunter's vest over a pale blue dress shirt, and a pair of tight-fitting jeans. Witnesses described his behavior on arrival as flaky, wandering, undecided. After approximately 3 minutes, he fired 5 shots into the crowd, hitting several. Police were called by mall security as the guy made his way into a clothing store and took cover behind an abandoned counter. Police response time was 7 minutes, as they were held up by roadworks. During that time, the guy fired a few more times at whoever was unfortunate enough to pass by, though he hit no one else. Upon seeing the police, the guy shouted at them, calling them King Mob. He made no attempts to submit peacefully and showed no sign of reconciliation. He fired once at the police, hitting an officer through the heart, and then made for the exit. Officers chased him for 30 yards and then gunned him down on the sidewalk in front of the mall. What else can be said? It's a sad state of affairs. We may never know the truth about the journal he found, but we know his truth. The guy was the iconic Western man, breaking down in aggression about an anxiety he couldn't put a face to. This is not a cautionary tale. This is reality. Or is it fiction? Either way, it's all dust windward. This is the horrible event that happens, although I did my best to be graceful about it in this song.
Best regards.
Even the title of the Marble Hornets reference, because To the Dark often said regards. Remember, this is how the album started.
Wow.
Yeah, but might go without saying that last song took a lot of work, a lot of details to it. Mostly musically, there's a lot of the drums alone took God, like the process, like you guys were gone, didn't catch the very beginning, but we write this. Me and Lindsay, my friend, write this in MuseScore, which is a notation software where you can make sheet music. And so I have sheet music for every song here. In fact, for all the songs on all of our albums, every single note is individually placed. And some of these, MuseScore is not a perfect software. Like some of these songs, if a song goes for long enough, like we have some songs that are so long that editing it at all will make MuseScore just crash, and I've got to find workarounds for that. But even just like ideal conditions, editing a song is editing even just one drum note. I've got to listen to the section again, or I've got to listen to the whole context, got to listen to the whole song in order to lead up to that part to hear what does that change, what does that change do for the ear, what does it do for the listener, and I'll often have to listen to it again and again, like little changes and then I don't know.
That. I absolutely get that.
But
I mean, obviously, my kind of editing stuff that I do is obviously different because, yet again, with MuseScore, it's music, whereas with mine, it's video. I mean, yeah, there's obviously levels of audio and things like that. And
video editing it's still very similar. You have to kind of watch it. You'll have to watch it back a lot of times.
Oh, 100%. And then I think one of the most annoying things for me is the fact that so in DaVinci, the one that I currently use, which I've gotten really accustomed to, and there's still so much of it that I'm just kind of afraid to use because I don't know what all is going to work, and also what will not break the software because it can be really full on. And I think one of the scariest things for me about it is the fact that it's got more than one way to like delete certain parts. Like, you know, whenever you like you cut out a little bit and you're like, okay, I'm going to just delete that bit. And, you know, sometimes you want to delete and immediately, like, push things together, or just delete and then the place stays open. It's got those, but sometimes it doesn't know which one it wants to go with, even though I'm like, well, that's why there's two options, right? So I choose one, and that should do that, and I choose another one, and sometimes it'll squish, and you'll think, oh, it'll just squish on that one track. But it won't. It'll squish everything.
Oh.
And I'm like, please don't fucking do that, because then I have to check and be like, fuck, has anything else shifted? Like any of my little graphics, have they moved? Is now this not going to look correct? So I do completely understand when it comes to like having to constantly meticulously go over even a little tiny thing. And then, I think the worst part is when I'll because I usually do one full check before I publish anything anyway. And sometimes on DaVinci, it's fine. Put it up on YouTube, and all of a sudden there's a completely new problem. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's just like the worst fucking thing. So I know exactly your pain when it comes to meticulously making sure everything fucking is as it should be.
Yeah, and
it's a nightmare.
The thing with music is it's very easy for it to sound bad, and like I still have fears that people are going to find this just lame on the format because it's still MIDI music. But I promise you, it could have sounded a lot worse. This is about as polished as it can get for the format.
Well, exactly. I mean, ultimately, because the constraint is that it's MIDI format. But the beauty of MIDI is the fact that there's I don't even know how many instruments you could really pick from. I'm sure there's countless ones, and then there's probably ones that I've never even heard of, for example. But it could, I don't know if they're all like plugins or add-ons or however it's described to add extra instruments into MuseScore or anything. I have no fucking idea because I don't do any of that. But I used to know a guy in high school who used to write. I don't think using MIDI score. I don't remember what software he used, but he wrote like 2 or 3 songs in MIDI format. And at the time we were both like, oh, this is really kind of fucking cool. But it was also to help him be like, this is a song I want to play in real life, but I'm not very good at composing, so I'm going to make it in MIDI format first.
Yeah. And
then if I like the sound of it there, I'll transpose it into actual sheet music. But I suppose, like with you, it is sheet music ultimately, so it still works. And so I respect the art form. I really do. I think it's a great way to be like, oh, I want to make music, but I don't have the capabilities of getting together the instruments required and the capabilities and the time. So I'll just do all of it on my own with MIDI.
And the thing is, I offer a lot of concessions, but and apologies, but like frankly, I love MIDI.
Yeah,
I'm doing this.
wrong with that.
Like I'm doing this project. Like I'm doing it this way because ultimately, at the end of the day, I love MIDI. Like
Yeah,
I
it's
grew up
your
with
thing.
the Doom games. Like I love
Yeah.
MIDI rock music and stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see like I realized like wait, I can make this. So like, how can I make it better? Can I make it? What can I do with it?
No, exactly. You know, I absolutely understand where you're coming from. Because I mean, even I know, like for example, with my writing style as well, obviously because what I do is story based stuff anyway. And I've learned that although I probably could end up writing a somewhat decent novel, I also know that the terminology I use and the format and the style that I choose to write in still doesn't feel like it's moved past like teenage years, because I've never really done it past teenage years, nor have I like tried to go beyond that level. And so even writing my story now, I'm like, it does feel not professional. But I don't mind that, you know, because I'm like, well, it's not like I'm making a fucking book. It's an internet fun story project idea that encompasses a couple of different layers and mediums, you know, and I think that's quite fun for what it is. And I'm like, so in that case, that's appropriate and it works, and I don't need it to be more than that.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing. It's like it doesn't matter whether everybody loves it, because no matter what, everybody will not love anything you do. It's just the fucking truth of the world. You could be the fucking Mr. Beast of the fucking world, and there's still going to be people like, these guys are fucking, I hate this shit. And to be fair, Mr. Beast is also a terrible example.
Yeah.
Because he is a bit of a shill. No offense to the guy personally. I'm sure he's a lovely dude. But, like, fuck me. He's a shill of a content, man. I understand what he's doing. Respect the hustle. Fucking garbage content. But it's just the name of the game. Not everybody's going to like what you do. Do it anyway. Fuck it. Do it because you want to do it. Do it because you like it.
So I want to have a cigarette. But before I do, let me just so we've listened to Best Regards, and so we finally got, and not even in the prose story, but only in the lyrics, we can finally see the contents of the journal. And so I don't know what exact reaction people have, but what I want people to have is, what the fuck is this? Like, the journal doesn't tell you anything. Because like I did have something in mind. Like the journal, basically wrote it as modernist poetry. There was a meaning in mind, but it's very couched in very dense wordplay and formatting and stuff. But the point is, like, the guy didn't read anything significant in that. He just read into it whatever he wanted to read in it. It was basically nonsense. To him, it was nonsense. And so the final reveal is like wow, the guy was like, he was
mad over something that, you know, probably shouldn't have even remotely made him feel that way. Yeah, I guess it was almost like he was looking for any reason to be pushed over the edge.
Yes.
And for some reason, a journal, which I suppose comprised of nonsense, or I guess it depends on like how you. Yet again, it's interpretation, isn't it? It's how it struck him, how he digested it, is what pushed him over the edge, which he was clearly already at anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And to be clear, like, my intention, like, the modernist poetry of the journal, what I had in mind was, it was like somebody in like the 60s who was an old man already in the 60s who was being stalked by the Slender Man, but he was taking one last walk down the high street and to seeing the sights of his town. And before he realized, like, I'm too tired. I've lived my life running from the Slender Man. I'm too tired to run anymore. But like, the Slender Man is directly in the narrative, but it takes a lot of interpretation to even realize that.
Right.
But okay, I'm gonna let you digest that. I'm gonna have a cigarette.
No worries. I'll hang out with chat and we'll have the little chit chats.
Yeah.
Let's see. Chaos. Maybe it's just a quirk of my brain, but I get shades of Type Zero Negative. I'm assuming that's a band. Don't know what that is. Do apologize. You're probably right though, and I do agree with you, even if I don't know. You also say, honestly, absolutely slept on style / format. Oh, with MIDI, yeah. I think so too. I can see why not everybody uses it. I mean, yet again, it feels like it has specific places. For me, it makes me obviously think of Doom because, you know, back in MS-DOS days and everything, they had to really condense music files, and MIDI was one of the ways to do that at the time, and it really fucking worked. I mean, the fact you could you could put Doom on like fucking everything these days. You know what I mean? Like this, just to give you an idea of how fucking small it truly is of a game, and yet incredible at the same time. But it also makes me think of like just compressed tinny games anyway. It makes me think of certain things, and so I think a lot of people associate MIDI music with certain tastes. They always assume it, especially with games, especially. I mean, just There's plenty of games that like to utilize MIDI, and I totally understand that, and I think it works very appropriately in those arenas. But that doesn't mean it couldn't work in other formats and other I suppose storytelling devices. I suppose a game is a storytelling device in a way. It's an arguable point. Not every game tells a story, but I think you kind of get what I'm saying. I kind of get what I'm saying. Sometimes I have profound thoughts, and I do not know how best to vocalize them. And it's a real fucking shame. Because I feel like I used to have a really colorful vocabulary growing up, and I used to be really, like, into literature. I used to be really into amazing terminology and learning and understanding languages. And I do feel like over the years, I have really degraded my fucking mind. And to be fair, that's my own fault. But it does make me feel good knowing that I'm perhaps my mind is there, just my verbose capabilities are not with me. But I need to work on that. That's my own personal blunder. Let's see. Chaos says, "Oh no, he's actually shady in how he treated people and kind of exploited them." Oh, 100 fucking % with Mr. Beast. I brought him up just as a very obvious example, but it's so true. Just the amount of issues. A lot of big people do that. Greed and corruption just makes people fucking just all kinds of bad, man. You know what? I hope to get that rich to also understand greed and corruption, because if I'm completely honest with you, I just don't get it. I do not understand exploitation. And you know what? I'm glad I don't. I'm so fucking glad that it just doesn't click in my brain to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna trot over people to get what I want. Fuck that. It's outrageous. That means somebody else would do that to me. No, fuck all that. No, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Chaos also says, for some reason that brings to kind a certain Nirvana song. There are, particular Nirvana vibes. I do totally feel that. And actually, I really enjoy that. And that brings an entire new perspective to me in these songs. And I now hit them with a little bit more appreciation. I think it's really well thought, Chaos. Well thought. Lil Duck says, like the testificates in Minecraft. It's all the noises they make. Chaos also says, I feel that Nate, the whole expressing myself in degradation is a huge mood. Good. I'm so glad I'm not alone. I used to read all kinds of books in high school and even after high school, and then I just stopped doing it, and I think I just stopped kind of really challenging my brain. I feel really stupid. Not good. And yeah, I like really hardcore thoughts. Wow, even that. Did you hear that sentence just now? What the fuck was that? I like really hardcore thoughts. What am I hinting at? Hardcore thoughts? You know what? Let's not even touch that. That word alone instigates all kinds of thought problems. Let's not go down that avenue. Ellie says, "Hey, I had food. Are we talking about Mr. Beast?" We were for a bit. We absolutely were for a bit. Do you have any opinions, expressions, thoughts? I believe we're all in the same camp of fuck that guy and his production team. But I'm sure. I mean, I don't feel like they're. I don't know. Maybe personally they are bad. I have no idea. I've never met them. But right? Always iffy talking about certain big names, isn't it? Chaos says, life started challenging me too much, and I understood what you meant actually, but Lamau. I'm glad. I'm so glad we're all on the same page. So glad. You were going for deep, complex, nuanced, I believe. Yes, I believe I was, and I just, brain just had a kerfuffle, a little fart, and it just shat out just the worst word vomit potential. Good. Our creator is back, which is good. It'll give me a chance to go to the toilet. Good. While you catch up with chat, you've got Chaos, maybe Little Duck, and Ellie. Do you want the phone? In case you read a little bit better. Back in a bit. I might also get a drink because I'm a thirsty boy.
Yeah, you should.
Not a beer though. Not
yeah, that's fair. To answer the question, I've heard of Typo Negative. I have not actually listened to any of their music. I've recently been meaning to get into them, but yeah, I haven't listened to Typo Negative. My influences are more like a lot of Genesis, a lot of Dream Theater, some Between the Buried and Me. Between the Buried and Me is a lot more hardcore than I go for. But like I take a lot of influence from song structures. So like Opeth is also very good for song structures, but in terms of like the actual music, this might sound a bit cheesy, but like there's a bit of Coldplay, there's a bit of probably a bit of Pink Floyd, a bit of fuck what even goes into this? Like I don't know. I like Autechre. They're an electronic band. They're good for just inspiring me to think outside the box. Like I do listen to quite a lot of music, and over the years I've just gathered a lot of influences. So how is everybody doing? I hope the people who are here enjoyed the music. Obviously, because I made it. Vibes, yep. Even with the more structural stuff. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So like I've listened to so much music that I've just picked up a lot of. Like, I have my own like internal consumer's ear of like when I'm listening to I'm thinking like, what I hear the guitar do something, and I'm like, oh, what should happen next? Like the drums should do this thing there, because I'm thinking back to memories of bands that I've liked. But also, just this music is how music goes. You get fluent within the medium, just like with any medium. Well, I don't know. I feel like probably like there is a lot of Opeth and Coldplay and Genesis in this kind of music. A lot of Genesis, because I mean Genesis is my favorite band. I love all of their albums, all their eras. I even love the Ray Wilson era, with Calling All Stations. But the Peter Gabriel stuff is fantastic. Oh, and Metallica. There's also a lot of Metallica in what I do because I love Metallica. Thank you, Chaos. That's what I want. I want music for cats. Genesis boy, that's me. You can claim that if you want, Ellie. So I go for a lot of prog rock. When I was a teenager, I had a big phase in a, a big phase in my teenager years. I was into 70s prog rock. Because like my dad got me into Genesis when I was like 12, so I wanted to go into similar things. The Genesis was 70s prog rock before they were a pop band, although I love the pop stuff as well. But so I went around, went to Yes, I went to King Crimson, love King Crimson, Pink Floyd, of course, uh, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It's also good. The freaking Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, although it's very repetitive. But there you are.
Here I am.
Chaos loved the music, so I'm happy about that.
Ah, good. Yeah, you've already got a fan. No alcohol for us today.
Drinking Coke in a Coke shirt. I'm not consciously a shill for Coca-Cola. I'm kind of their ideal customer.
But he is throwing his hat out there, saying if they want to sponsor him, he's open.
God, absolutely. Honestly, if Coca-Cola wanted to sponsor me, I would do that in a heartbeat.
I'm drinking San Pellegrino Limonata because it's fucking refreshing.
Sunsetters, the official music of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, fuck all the celebrities they've used before. we're going straight MIDI music now. You don't understand. It's so much cheaper. Oh, God. If I missed anything important, doesn't look like it. That's good. That's good. Oh, Ellie does say I actually have a wicket today, so I have alcohol. Good for you, Ellie.
Nice.
Good for you. The one time we're not drinking and you are. It's like we're on completely opposite wavelengths. Now, to be fair, I've kind of come off the tail end of a sickness this week, and I just wasn't really in the mood to drink.
That's
so,
fair.
Yeah.
I had a migraine last night for like 6 hours, 7 hours, so I just want to take it easy today.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it's not too hot today in this room.
Honestly, no, it's been great today. I've had the window open a lot, and it really makes a massive difference. But I haven't had to for the stream. It's just been all right. Dark Knight 1328. Yo, how are you, Nate? I'm all right, my dude. You know, I can't really complain. Coming off the tail end of a sickness and just drinking a little bit of lemon flavored sparkling water. How are you this fine day, afternoon, evening, night, morning, wherever you are, Mr. Batman? And Chaos says, I'm drinking water again. Hey, there's nothing wrong.
That's good.
Water's always a good call. You know, it's always a safe bet. I'll take water any fucking day, honestly. Especially, like, quite ice cold. A lot of people... there's a weirdly big debate online. I find this to be really stupid.
What?
Where some people like, oh, ice cold water is the best. And then a lot of other people like, oh, no. Anybody who drinks water only drinks room temperature water. They don't actually like ice cold water. And I'm like...
I've never heard that debate before.
I'm like, why are you speaking for everybody? What the fuck are you on about? Like, I mean, room temperature's fine, but like, fucking have it ice cold. I'm gonna have it ice cold. Like, that's not even a question. I find that so strange. Speaking for everybody. Yeah, real water drinkers only drink room temperature. What kind of basic ass bitch are you? Like, can't be talking for everybody. What the fuck is this? That just really wound me up. Because I love ice cold water, and I'm like, the fuck is this guy speaking for me? I don't even know his name. He's just a fucking meme that's been rotating around in social media, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Ellie says, water is good. I will be drinking water tomorrow. Always good call, Ellie. Always good call. Batman says, dog, I love you videos, and cool, and I'm good. Good, dog. That's good. It's funny because I'm Nate Dog as well, so that's funny. Chaos says, I've seen it, and it definitely depends on my mood which tastes and feels better. I mean, that's fair, but I still, if it's a preference, if I have a choice, it's going to be ice cold. But that's just me, I suppose. Ellie says, I know there's water review channels. Oh, for like the brands and stuff. Who review different bottle brands, yeah, okay. Wait, there's entire channels for that? That seems crazy. That seems unnecessary.
Well, there's channels for everything.
I mean, I understand review channels where they like, you know, review varying things, like Good Mythical Morning do that and stuff. But like, if all they do is just water, that's kind of weird. That's like some hardcore dedication. Let's see. Dark says, true, yeah, ice cold is good. Water cold is peak. I agree. Water cold is peak. It's a good way to go. Kaya says, exactly, that's what I'm kind of saying. It's a preference thing, not some objective fact. Plus giving information on my variable preference. And I appreciate that. But yet again, you're not telling me what I like. And I think that's totally fine. Whereas that guy was speaking for every water drinker. And I'm like, fuck out of here. Like, who are you? Who elected you? Who elected you the prime minister of everybody's water preferences? Crazy. Ellie says, there's a kid who charts how much water he drinks. I think his parents set it up so he drink more water, and he kept it going. That's quite smart.
Yeah.
Anything to enable healthy habits. All about that. Would have been far funnier if I drank beer after that. But no, I am drinking water.
Good.
With lemon juice in it.
It is 9 o'clock.
Yes, it is. It is 9 p.m. in the evening for us. For we are in UK time, which at the moment the time zone is British Summer Time, BST.
Yeah.
So, Ellie says we stand water drinking. My arm is gone, but yes, we do. Oh my god, I've become the tree now. Holy shit, Slenderman's got me. You know, I don't want to put my arm down because I'm gonna like go back to normal, and this actually looks really cool. Yeah, I'm like being eaten by the tree. This is great. If I go like this way, nope. Oh look, there it is. Ah, it's back. Ah. I entertain myself. I'm sorry. The water is devouring my arm. It is, Ellie. Well, the water or the tree, but maybe Slenderman's just he's all about that water. Maybe he's a room temperature guy. Maybe that's why he was taking me. Fuck that Slenderman, room temperature water drinker. There's nothing wrong with room temperature water, but it's not my preference. Oh god. Chaos says, my cat started giving me glares when I drink more soda and glares less when I drink water, so she got me into good habits. Oh, you know what? Good cat. Surprising, because most cats want to kill you. But that's a good cat. Good cat. Really cares about you. And then Ellie says, or the tree. Yes. The tree was indeed devouring my arm. It was really sad. Dark Knight says, 9 for me. It's 4:21 p.m. because of New Jersey. Well, now 22. 4:22.
Yeah.
4:22 p.m.
Oh.
Excuse me. Oh. That was just for you, Dark Knight. I really hope you've come for the quality, and I wanted to make sure I delivered to you. This is obviously what people come for. And Ellie says, all good cat.
Do we have anything more to say about No Entry? Or I've covered all the story, but do I have any opinions, or do we want to move on, or just chill for a bit more? Or...
I don't mind. What would you prefer to do?
I don't know. If chat wants to chill, we can chill. But I was wondering if we have time to do the other album. It'll be a lot.
Is it album 1? Yeah.
Yeah, it's 40 minutes or 47 minutes, I think.
Okay. I mean, I don't see why not.
Okay.
We can do album 1.
Yeah.
I feel like we got a decent idea of how it should probably go with the reading of the prose and the songs and everything. I think it's quite good.
Yeah, luckily there is prose for album 1. Oh, it's a different kind. It's not because album 1 doesn't tell a story. Album 1 is just the mythology of empathy. Don't. Oh, you've done YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just a playlist there.
Yeah, don't bother lyrics. There's another link there below it.
Oh, the words thing.
Yeah. This is outside the music kind of thing. A magazine interview. So it'll cover every song, but I'm gonna read the opening part of it first, and then we'll do the songs as they come.
Okay.
So right. So now we're jumping back in time to the year 2000, or in this case 2003. But the album we're listening to is from the year 2000. It's The Mythology of Empathy, the first album by the Sunsetters, and also God, the one annoying thing about starting with No Entry is that that's the one album where with Ridley Coe on guitar. Or she goes by her stage name Sally Death. And so on a lot of songs in No Entry, we could hear a guitar that sounded really good. That was Sally Death. There's no more of that. It's gonna be pure MIDI guitar from here on out. Because we're going back. Because it's Deegan Allen is one guitarist, Remy Larson is the other guitarist. But right, so Deegan's the one who's answering this stuff. He did a magazine interview in 2003. So there are answers from Deegan Allen of Sunsetters, Kerrang! Magazine, July 2003 issue. And also, this is supposed to be an interview, but I didn't bother writing the interviewer's questions, so I just put pause.
It's just Deegan.
Yeah.
Deegan's side.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. That's funny.
Origins. Well, I have no relation to Catamites or to Trojan history. My family is not even Greek or Turkish or anything remotely close to that region of our mutual culture. Frankly, I don't know my family's roots, nor do I have any drive to find out. My parents were just teachers with a hippie streak, and that's why they, in their infinite wisdom, named their only child Ganymede. So that's another thing. So Deacon is a nickname, because he didn't want to be called Ganymede. So he just took the end of Ganymede and the beginning of it, so D-Gan, and called himself Deegan. So I don't know why I called him Ganymede, but whatever. Yeah, kids thought my name was weird. It didn't help that I was a straight-A student, honor rolls, accolades, every kind of juvenile kid you can name, I fulfilled it. I think I felt like I had to live up to my name, even though I didn't understand the Ganymede myth until I was in college. To my young mind, it was a prestigious legacy befitting of my parents' expectations, which were nowhere near as high in reality as they were in my thoughts. So I hit the books and did my work and had the most typical friends you could imagine. My teenage years saw no rebellions against authority nor particularly notable drug use. I think the most rebellious I got was when I bought Fleetwood Mac's Rumors and CD after finals one year, when we had a record player, not a CD player. Yeah, that's not particularly rebellious, that's my point. Pause, the interviewer says something. I don't know what to tell you. Pause. As a group, it was 98. I was a senior at Georgia State. I was reading some textbook and differential equations in the commons area, and Remy comes up to me asking if I want to go see some band after lunch. I knew him pretty well by then. He got me into Quake 2 LAN games, and I got him into Aphex Twin. I had nothing better to do. They were called Basset Hounds at the time, a college band, and aside from Finn, they were really, really tame. I thought that was lame, but tame. Paul was clearly the one who did all the writing, and as such, their songs were bass-heavy. Didn't even have guitars beyond him. I think the gig I saw was Finn's debut on drums, actually. Elsie provided her atmospheric vocals too, which I digged. Come to think of it, I think they were just a three-piece in those days. Bass, drums, and vocals, like the 90s rock equivalent of techno. Now, Remy went to that gig because he was friends with Elsie, and both of us knew Paul. Well, that's a strong word. We were aware of him. But by the end of it, he didn't seem too impressed by their take on music. Their demo was being circulated in the crowd, and I wound up paying a good $10 for it because I actually liked what I heard. I was very into, you could call it mellow stuff back then. Anything I could put on in the background as I hit the books. I think Remy was into more melodic stuff. Anyway, after the concert, Remy introduced me to Elsie, and Elsie introduced us to Paul and Finn. Finn gave us some booze, and we had a talk, I still remember this, about rocket science. Bands are like that. Despite their presentation, they're really just passionate about random stuff. Pause. Much like I'm being right now, that's right. Ha ha ha. Pause. This isn't some superhero origin story. We're a bunch of college acquaintances who liked each other's stuff and settled on a name together. Maybe try narrowing your questions? I've got time. Pause. That's a good one. The name came from something Finn said while drunk as a skunk. I just finished laying the lead track for the Rise demo, so I grabbed a math book and crashed on his couch for a bit. He stumbles in from the party, his hands cut the fuck up, bits of glass still sticking out of his face, sees me on his couch and nearly pisses himself. Says, "What are you doing here? Come to watch me set the sun?" I think he meant he was going to sleep. It's been a while as an inside joke in the band, and somewhere it turned into our name, Sunsetters. And I guess I'll read the one for this song, because we can go song by song.
Okay.
Drowning Under the Influence. The band didn't happen overnight. After our talk of rocket science, we went our separate ways for a while. Some of us kept up with schoolwork, some of us, like Finn and Elsie, dropped out. I wound up sharing 2 classes with Paul the next semester, and we got on well. He's sort of a hermit, but he's a productive hermit. If he likes you, you'll end up doing some sort of extracurricular activity together. He saw that I liked to mess with the guitar, and he encouraged me to do more with it. The first song I wrote was Smash Bottle, which later wound up on the album under the name Drowning Under the Influence. A simple thing, chorus, verse, bridge, verse, chorus, I think. Paul had got me interested in punk rock at the time, and Finn was starting to cause some problems within our friend circle, so I got angry and jammed my guitar one night until that song came out. Pause. Alcohol, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, those kinds of problems. At least that's the official story. Something was going on with his personal life. There was this girl, and Finn has never been too good with women. It's not my story to tell, if that's okay. Pause. Yeah, don't print that. Pause. They're not mine. Someone else writes most of our lyrics. It's a decision we made early on. Most of us just want to write and play music. Only one of us, especially back then, was interested in concepts. I can tell you about Drowning, though. I came up with the idea. After I'd recorded the demo from that night of anger and jamming, I showed it to our lyricists, and they asked me about what went into making it, where that anger came from. I said to them more or less the same thing I'll tell you now. I pictured a living room, a suburban family, a family that's happy only on TV, the mother nowhere to be found, the father sprawled out in his favorite chair, a bottle of beer in his hand, just staring at the static on the set in front of him. And a kid, his kid, hiding in the kitchen, hiding tears. The whole place filled not with fear, but with something bigger than fear, a kind of broken empathy that circles like a bad wind, carrying every mind in unseen directions, leading souls into the abyss like some kind of social whirlpool. An ocean of emotion, impossible to fathom, normally kept at bay by natural comprehension-based mechanisms the brain uses to protect itself. Here already drowned, here cracked and smashed, leaving only the spilling waves. And I picture the kid drowning in this emotion, the mother already drowned, the father about to dive head first. And in this moment, he stops and, in seeing the static, is suddenly aware of everything. Everything about the undercurrent of their dynamics, all of it, totality. Not that awareness is enough. Once we stop thinking about this picture, once we leave the room, he's diving under, soon to drown. Pause. Yeah, that's what Scherning's album cover is based on. Pause. Friend of Elsie and Paul's. I know they're pretty big in the art world now, probably bigger than us, but back in those days we were chummy. Lyricist told them about my little drowning picture, and within a week they came to us with that painting. Lovely thing, isn't it? Like a cave painting or something you find on an old church wall. They said it was a God's eye view of your suburban hell. I think that was one of the many elements that led to the album's name. That's referring to the album cover. That came up with the album cover is by Quinn, my ex, but I came up with this fictional. Well, Quinn picked the name Scherning. There's the character, but whatever. Okay. So, Mythology of Empathy is not a concept album. It's just a bunch of songs. It's the first album, and yeah, album cover, nice.
It's just a band trying to do stuff.
Yeah.
Drowning Under the Influence.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice little punk song to get us started. I don't know why YouTube does that sometimes.
It's weird.
Burning books. At some point, Remy was coming along to Paul and I's little music experiment sessions. Those two hit it off, would spend more time talking about literature than writing music. They spent a lot of time in libraries, and I think one time I was between classes, I stopped by the library to have my lunch, and Paul stopped me and asked if I had time to hear a demo. I shit you not, the two of them had written pretty much the final song as you hear it now. All I had to do was lay down some lead melodies and arpeggios. Finn wrote the drums, but even he found that easy. The song was clear, if that makes sense. You heard this thing, and you just knew what it was going to sound like. I've asked Remy a couple times about the song, and apparently he wrote it while in a fierce depression. He started with the song's title and somehow wrote the chord progressions around that. Paul wrote the rhythms. Pause. Yeah, the lyricist told me a little bit about that. See, we had this professor that semester, a thin old man with a big bushy beard. No nonsense, impatient but understanding. He looked at you through his massive spectacles, and he felt like he was looking through you. I think he's who they were thinking of. Played around with the character, of course, made him ancient, possibly immortal. Our narrator has seen it all, literally seen it all. He knows all the lies we tell, and he has resolved never to interfere, only to watch and write his memoirs. Maybe he even knows what happens after death. It's not that he wouldn't tell us, just that he can't. We don't have the words for it. And he hates censorship. That's the one thing that drives him to live on. I don't know the lyricist's exact intentions, but I like to think one day the authorities found his memoirs and burned them up, and then the old man stabbed his own eyes out and swore himself to silence ever since. Pause. Our songs certainly aren't happy. We had our problems in those days. We wrote in atmospheres none of us particularly wanted to go back to.
This brings us to
Burning books.
Party Books. Song in
Very proud of this one.
Next one up, Hidden in the Trees, Memento Mori.
Yes, the next two songs are a unit. So, the lyrics say that it's for SB. That's why this is starting off with. SB was another friend of Remy's. Wrote in his spare time, and Remy loved the stuff he wrote. One story he wrote was titled "Hidden in the Trees." Also, like, just out of the story here, "Hidden in the Trees" is a fear blog written by one of the founders of the fear mythos, Blizzard Bite, and so it's like about the Slender Man and the Archangel, who's just a man in a gas mask who controls the dead. But it's like a Slender blog, but with more monsters in it. So this was an adaptation of Hidden in the Trees. But anyway, back to the fiction. It was a thriller about this guy who worked for dark gods and killed for them, only to find himself hunted down by them, as these stories tend to go. Remy had been wanting to write a song about that for a long time. Before we even knew we'd make an album, he was saying, "I want that song to be on it." We thought the song itself was done pretty early on. Remy had this long, 9-minute foray into a few subgenres of metal. It worked for what it was meant to be, but one day Elsie came to us with some ideas of how we could play with the riffs. She does that. She likes to experiment on her keyboard with the stuff we make. It lets her contribute to the songwriting process in a more substantial way. And Finn was sober enough to come up with some jazzier rhythms. Originally, it was all one song, and the 3-minute outro was more repetitive, a tribute to the crushing metal Paul and Remy loved at the time. The decision to split it and play with the outro came naturally. As we practiced, we would add some variations ourselves, and we just we liked the idea of that outro being its own jam. The name came from the end of SB's story, Latin, "Remember that we die," I believe. I think the lyrics are an expansion of Burning's voice. I remember the lyricist talking about that. The lyrics aren't meant to be a straight-up adaptation, just still applicable as one. It's as if the old man from Burning, or someone related to him, were giving a soliloquy at the end of his life as he's hunted down. It's definitely about closure, that much I remember strongly. The closure of memory, the closure of a life, about to die, watching all meaning fade away.
This brings us to
Yep.
Hidden in the Trees. Okay. Next up is Perfection.
Perfection. This song has its origins in our first ever band meeting. I was a few weeks away from graduating, and by this point we knew we wanted to make music together. We even called ourselves The Sunsetters, would drop the later, and Finn let us practice and record in his warehouse, where he lived, believe it or not. We met up for the first time that day, we did Burning and Rise, but our meeting was cut short that time because of some news. Pause. It pertains to a subject from earlier, which I don't want to talk about. Pause. Yeah. Pause. Okay. We'll call her Nobody. Nobody was a friend of Finn's. They spent a lot of time together. He wanted her to sit in on our band meetings, but at that first meeting we got news that she... Pause. Yeah. It didn't take a rocket scientist to see what had happened. Her mother was batshit. Finn had had many run-ins. Unstoppable force meets an immovable object. After that news, he very near did to her what she had done to... Pause. So yeah, Perfection was a hate letter to Nobody's mother. It was a turning point for us. Certainly for him. The song was originally way angrier. I don't know if you've heard the demo. But over time, as grief found its place in his life, the song also simmered down. Paul would spend evenings working with him on it. Pause. That's right. The lyricist respected that.
This is
Perfection.
The song that's less angry now.
Yeah.
No. Okay. That's okay, Chaos. I'm glad you've been vibing with the story and
Yeah.
the music.
I'm very flattered. Thank you, Chaos.
But,
If you gotta go, you gotta go.
yeah, you gotta go, you gotta go. So no worries.
You gotta have a date night.
Exactly. Oh, God damn it. Every single time I do with... Oh, it's ridiculous that...
We're gonna keep rolling because there's not too much more to this album, except for a big song coming, but that's not yet. And is this all? Before I joined Paul and his music experiments, I'd already been tinkering with my guitar. I considered starting a band of my own called Maya Amontillado. Pause. Not much of a story. I named my guitar Amontillado, like the wine. I didn't even drink wine. This was during a phase when I tried to play up my legal names and mythology a bit. I spent a lot of time reading up on Enlightenment-era poetry. I was clearly depressed. I don't believe I had a clear reason for it either. Do you need a reason to be depressed? Pause. Oh, right. Is This All as a product of those times? I'd written a poem. I don't really want to go into what caused it. and I had a song that went with it. I was in talks with some other friends about doing something with that, but it didn't go anywhere. Instead, way later, when we already had most of the Sunsetters album written, Paul brought up Maya Amontillado and asked if I could show the others some of the songs I'd written for it. There were a couple of others I showed that day, but this one got the best reaction. Remy came up with the idea to build it into a distorted guitar climax. Maya Amontillado were not a heavy band at all. Other than that, we didn't change much. Pause. A Sunsetters song? That's a weird question. Would I say the final product fits as a Sunsetters song? Christ, for those softballs. Would I say that the final product... Yeah. That's a Top Gear reference. Okay.
Is this all?
Yeah. The Last Sunset. So Elsie has a keyboard. I'd mentioned that before. This song is hers. She didn't write too much in those days. It took her a couple albums to decide she wanted to focus on synths. I don't know the full story behind this song, but it's got a pseudo-mythical status amongst us. Pause. Because it came to her in a dream, lyrics and all. Pause. She'd never heard of him. Okay, I haven't actually... There's a bit of context to this, which doesn't actually... It's completely stupid context, but... This song is an instrumental. It doesn't have lyrics, but always printed with it are... it's this poem that I wrote called The Last Sunset, and I've used that poem in other stories under the pseudonym Henry Rutherford. And so, basically we're saying that, Elsie came up with this poem completely independently of Henry Rutherford. But anyway, she'd never heard of him. She didn't read poetry. Grew up in a trailer park. Pause. See, the song was originally called something else, Unknowing. Once she found out about the Rutherford poem, she renamed it to match. I don't actually think she wants people to know she came up with those lyrics independently. That's why she didn't want vocals in the song. I can tell you what I think of the song. I think it's a nice break. The whole album has this flow, you know? There's a lot of anger to it from start to finish, and this intangible sort of self-hatred. And that sort of comes to a head in Is This All? In The Last Sunset, there's, I want to say mentions of self-hatred, but it's more like seeing the after effects of it. In the song itself, I feel like I'm done with anger, just feeling, watching the world around me, seeing what can be left to the mind once anger is past. Pause. Exactly.
Last Sunset.
This was the first song I ever wrote. I wrote it on an actual piano. And then I never did that again.
Ruined it. Yeah, this one really has a lot of emotion to it. That was nice.
That one was directly influenced by Genesis. There's a transition in Supper's Ready, which has these long sustains on synth. I really like the effect of that. So whatever chords I came up with, I wanted to have sustains. Rise of Her Reign is the big one. When I graduated from Georgia State, majoring in astroengineering, I thought I was at the start of some new chapter of my life, but pretty quickly I found that there's not much work for that profession. At the same time, Paul, Elsie, and Remy had been finishing up what turned out to only be the first draft of this epic. The first Rise was nothing like what you hear now. It had the opening riff, and that's the only connection. Its movements went from grunge to washed-up midlife crisis 90s rock. I think Paul was the only one who was happy with it. This was at the peak of Finn's binge drinking period too, so I guess I was the only one with time on his hands, the only one who could see Rise as an outsider. I saw horror, unfounded and true. Pause. No, I'm sorry, that was a terrible answer. I just really didn't like the first draft. A lot of things about it rubbed me the wrong way, or maybe I got my feelings about the song mixed up with my experiences of the time. I had a talk with Paul. I told him I was thinking of quitting the band. He was patient and understanding about it, but he asked me if I could sit in on a jam session. Not take part, just watch. Pause. I hadn't noticed until that day the circles under his eyes, or that whenever Remy's on stage, he looks like he's perpetually cloaked in shadow, or that Elsie takes wide bursts away from anything modern while she's singing. When Finn arrived, I noticed his cautious, vague answers, his defense always shaping around the veracity of his memories. I noticed that he cleaned up a lot after everyone but himself, and never asked for much in return. On stage, he's more playful, more confident, more alive. I wondered if I might look different when under the audience's gaze. I do, in fact. I get into the zone. When I'm playing a song I truly believe in, I stop being an observer and start being a performer. We see people differently when they're performing something than when they're a part of our mundane lives. We're more likely to let our guards down and, spot that we even had them up to begin with. So I wondered if maybe I could do more in the band. These guys were my friends, and they did more for me than just playing some instruments in my proximity. Then I got lost at sea. I was crab fishing. My boat drifted a little too far and then sprung a leak. I nearly died out there, and this was in the days before cell reception was more widespread. I had to swim to shore, at least 5 miles. Pause. It sure was. I'm lucky to be alive. I came up with a melody for Rise's third movement, soliloquies for the dying out there. Haunting thing, a shifting call and response crawl, or crawl and response, with multiple elements clashing with each other over time. And as soon as I got back to shore, I went back to Finn's warehouse, I found the band, and I showed them the melody, and we jammed for 4 hours straight. Eventually my creation turned into a dance number, and Elsie found ways to echo the melody throughout the rest of the song. I haven't doubted the direction of my life since that day. Pause. Aside from that melody and some solos in the fourth movement, I couldn't tell you the intentions behind parts of the song. The lyricist is adamant that Rise is the album's climax, though. That was always planned. They had once told me that they see it as an expansion of Drowning. Pause. Oh, I completely agree. The lyrics in both songs seem to paint pretty clear pictures, unlike the rest of the album. I didn't consider if that may have been intentional or not. I'll have to ask them. Pause. Me? I have to look at the lyrics again. Pause. Off the top of my head, nothing makes sense, extremely so, to the point where it starts to feel comfortable. Refuge in the absurdity of self-loathing and despair, you know? The song isn't so much a climax, but a response. Pause. Thank you. That's it, isn't it? I'm starving. The Rise of Her Reign is the big one. Also, the first truly prog rock song we wrote. Movement 1.
Wow.
Of course, like Best Regards, that took a long time.
I can imagine, but I thought that was really good.
Thank you.
I enjoyed. I didn't love the first movement, but
That's fair.
I think the second really started pulling me into it, and then as it kept going on, I was really just kind of I was just locked into it. That was quite good.
It's definitely meant to take you on a journey.
Yeah, that was great. I like that.
All right, Reverie. What? Pause. Oh wait, this is that one, isn't it? Remy and Paul were with me as I tried to jam more material. We turned it into a tribute to another one of Remy's writer friends, and we named the song after it. That was a B-side. I'm pretty sure we left it off the album. Pause. Something like The Eternal Revolution? Pause. 8. Pause. No, 8 tracks. 7 songs, since Hidden and Memento count as 1. Pause. You're being serious? I swear I finalized the album. I don't know why I wouldn't know one of our own songs. Can you play it for me? Jog my memory. Just a little picture to end it on.
Oh, my Amontillado. Ah, cool.
So the implication is like, this is a song the Sunsetters don't even know is on their album.
Oh, that's an air of mystery. Okay. It's already got a very different vibe.
There will be more. This is just a long chord. So the idea is it's meant to be a nice ending to the album, but
Definitely is that.
But
Super different.
yeah, but there's definitely also meant to be different. It's kind of foreshadowing. Look, it'll be a while before the story takes us into those directions, but it's sort of saying like this story could go in very different music directions for all we know. And
Yeah.
I'll say like the Glitch album is more like this, but that's like the last thing we'll cover. And there is a hidden message in that song. There's a voice saying something, my voice saying something. I'm not going to give it away, but just letting people know there's a code in there, like a secret thing. It's not really a code. It's just a hidden secret.
I gotta admit, I did not kind of see that coming. But I mean that solidifies it for me. This first album of theirs is definitely my favorite one so far. And I mean, to be fair, I've only got one other point of reference, which is the Slender Man not full on horror album.
Yeah.
I didn't love that album. I thought like a lot of the music was really impressive. I did feel like it was just kind of a little bit all over the place in some of the parts, and it just felt like it wasn't perfectly connected and a bit obscure and weird. But I guess that's kind of how horror works in a way, is that it's disjointed. It's meant to be you're all over the fucking place. So it got that kind of aspect down, but it felt just kind of shaky, and some of the lyrics were just a little like odd. And I was like,
That's fair.
yeah, but it was still good. But I was like, if a lot of the music's gonna be like this, I'm not gonna gel super well with it. But then this album, I mean, it was just completely different. But I suppose it's like you said, it's the idea is it's their first album that they did where they're still kind of figuring out what exactly they want to be. They're trying a lot of things out, and it's I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of different styles, a lot of like different, somewhat genres in a way, and it just felt so true to that idea, and I just thought it was really well done, actually.
Well, thank you, first of all. I suppose it's kind of the risk. I think that whatever album we listened to first, it was going to be a bit shaky because you had to get used to the format,
right?
And I think like No Entry probably hits harder if you listen to it in the order of the albums, because you hear this. I don't know. You get more familiar with the characters in the band, and you start to like project ideas onto them, like, oh, the guitarist is, maybe he likes doing this kind of thing. He's doing more of it on the new album or something. You start to feel like they're your friends or something. I don't know.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. You kind of figure out who they are as people and as their character arcs are and everything. So
like by the time the No Entry comes along, it's more like you're glad to see these guys who you've been following all this time suddenly make like, in terms of like production value, it's like a really professional album. It feels almost like a pop album.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot more going on. You could tell like they've really gotten really good at what they do.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I mean, you can tell they're good, but it does feel like they still don't even know what they really want the band to be.
Yeah.
Like, it is just a trying of ideas.
It's honestly it's a relief that you like this album a lot.
I did really like this album quite a lot, actually.
You might love Summer Sucks, which would be fantastic for me because that's my favorite album, and that's the second one. But we'll probably do that one next stream. We'll either do that or we excavate. But like, because the next two albums can be listened to in either order, but just because there's no lore outside of them, and well, the only lore is that they were recorded around the same time, so they're kind of, you can listen to them in either order. But Summer Sucks is the second album,
right? I say we do the second one next, and the third one will be the third stream.
Yeah,
I think we got a good little rhythm going. I think we have a kind of an idea of how this format can be done.
Yeah,
I'm quite excited to listen to the next two albums. Really, I think it's going to be very interesting to see where you're going with the stylings of this band.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like what I really want, I want to have good music that I can listen to on repeat. So like
I get that,
but
why not make your own to do it? I understand that.
So I'm getting that, but also like there is, I don't know, the story elements of it are interesting to me because it's not a straight up narrative. You don't just read text and then that's it, or you don't just watch a video and that's it. You've got to piece things together. And it's not even really telling a story. It's just we're just seeing glimpses into these guys' lives.
Yeah, it's like the vibes of the song. Can you understand what they were trying to tell you?
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's one of the best things about music is it's not just what it's telling you, but it's also how it's meant to make you feel. And that to me is what makes music one of the best things, when it makes you feel, perhaps even in more ways than one throughout one song, you know, like it really affects you in a way and you're like, holy shit, I get it, you know, and I think that's what makes music just truly an incredible art form. And I did have that moment in, I think it was specifically Is This All and in Rise of a Rain. I definitely had those moments where I was like, I see that. I see it. That was really awesome, actually.
And I've also got to throw out there, although I feel like it might come across like I'm just saying this, but a lot of these songs are also made for re-listens. And so something like Burning Books gets better and better the more you hear it. Because it's a busy song. And I think also that the first movement of Rise of a Rain gets a little bit better on re-listens, because once you know what the melodies are, you don't have to focus on that. You can listen to another instrument and hear them doing interesting things. But
yeah.
And I know like No Entry also benefits from re-listens. Although not the, I don't know. I find that No Entry is the easiest album to listen to because it's just, I don't know, it just kind of, to me, it flows very pleasantly. But then there's songs on it, especially Best Regards, which the more I listen to it, the more I love it. Well, I'm the creator, so of course I'm going to love it, but I don't know.
You have to love everything you do.
Yeah.
we all have bad things that aren't always amazing, It's okay.
At the end of these songs end up surprising me on re-listens, especially like if I go to 20 years later and I'm like, wow, I don't even remember writing that, but that's really good. But I don't know, whatever. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you listened to it.
Oh, I'm glad we've started this little adventure. I'm really excited to see how next week is going to go, for sure.
Yeah. And for those watching or like watching the VOD or whatever, if you go into the website, sunsetters.neocities.org, you go into the pages for each of these albums, even the ones we've just listened to. There's a lot more information on there, of a lot of my commentary even, but written out in text. And so the main page for each album has a lot of commentary on it, but then there's also a side link to a non-fictional PDF where Lindsay and I both give commentary on every single track, usually to do with the composition and how we made it.
Shit.
But like this, and each album also has a fictional PDF, which has like a pretend lyric booklet. So, often to make it look more visually, like it'll be arranged in a visual way, and it's
right.
So it looks like something you believably have in a CD.
Yeah, if you were like you said, buy a CD or an album or something.
Yeah, so there's things in here for you to dig your teeth into, whatever.
That's really interesting. Well, I really hope that you guys have enjoyed the album number 4 and album number 1.
Yeah, we'll be going chronologically from here on out.
2 and 3, and then 5, I think, is the last one at the moment, isn't it? That's the Glitch one?
Yeah, I mean, like, the numbers are, like...
Well, I'm just talking album-wise, specifically, yeah.
But the Glitch album isn't a Sunsetters album, but it's best listened to at that point.
Right, okay. I mean, it's still connected to...
It is.
The project.
It's in the universe.
Yeah, so I feel like it'd be worth listening to, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we really hope you've had a fantastic time listening and digesting and divulging with us. I know I've had quite a little experience. It's been quite interesting actually, hearing a lot of MIDI music and kind of really trying to digest it, get into the vibes, and I got there. I did get there. I gotta say, I'm really curious to see where the rest of it's gonna go, which is always good. It's always good that I'm intrigued by something.
Yeah.
Because then I'm like, well, fuck, now I need more. As always, it's been fantastic. We will do a special new segment because we have this top fans thing, where we're going to call it the leaderboard thing, I suppose. So the winner, the number 1 spot this week goes to Chaos, who might not be here at the moment because they might be on the date night, which is fantastic. Yeah. You were number 1. Congratulations, Ellie. You are. Oh wait. Oh, Ellie just at the last second took number 1. You were number 2, but you know what? We'll say you 2 are joint first.
I'm
fine with that. That is really funny that just last second it says you took it.
All because she made that last comment.
That's great. That's really funny. So Ellie at the moment is number 1. Chaos is second place. And third place is Little Duck. Congratulations, everybody. I think it says it resets every stream. Maybe we'll do something else because of it. I don't know. This is a totally new thing to everybody. I didn't even know this was a feature, and they usually tell me things. They don't tell me shit sometimes.
Thanks for playing.
They didn't listen to my feedback, I'll tell you that much. So, great. We have new features, no idea what the fuck it does yet. Anyway, this has been it's been fantastic fun, everybody. We will see you next week for sure for album number 2 of
Summer
the
Sucks. It's called Summer Sucks.
Summer Sucks, which is hilariously appropriate for summertime.
I wrote it, finished it at summer as well, and it was, yeah.
Thank you, Queen Ellie, for doing your royal wave. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. My mouse. I've lost it. There we go.